December 1943. Eastern Ukraine. Soviet authorities announced that 4 men would stand trial for war crimes committed during the Nazi occupation of Ukraine. It would become one of the first major public war crimes proceedings of the Second World War, and one of the earliest attempts to hold individual perpetrators accountable while the conflict was still raging. The defendants represented both the occupying forces and local collaboration. Captain Wilhelm Langheld of the German Security Police, SS Lieutenant Hans Ritz, Sergeant Reinhard Retzlaf, and Mikhail Bulanov, a Soviet citizen who had entered the service of the Gestapo. They had not been captured in open combat. Instead, they were seized after Soviet troops retook Kharkov, identified by witnesses, and interrogated by military investigators. According to Soviet prosecutors, each man had played a direct role in a campaign of terror that had gripped the region for nearly 2 years. During German control, Kharkov became a center of repression. Thousands of civilians were rounded up. Jewish families were systematically targeted. Soviet prisoners of war were worked to death or executed. Entire neighborhoods lived under constant fear of arrest. Mobile gas vans were deployed and mass shootings were carried out on the city's outskirts. Deportations emptied homes and factories alike, sending men and women westward into forced labor. By the time the Red Army returned, evidence of these crimes was everywhere. Shallow graves, abandoned detention sites, survivors who carried both physical wounds and memories of loss. The trial opened in mid-December 1943, inside a packed courtroom in Kharkov. Soviet officials made a deliberate choice to conduct the proceedings publicly. Foreign correspondents were invited. Photographers and newsreel crews were allowed inside. The message was clear: this was not meant to be a quiet legal formality. It was intended to be seen. Witnesses took the stand one by one. Former prisoners described interrogations and beatings. Residents spoke of neighbors who vanished overnight. Parents told of children who never returned. During the trial, Langheld was described as an organizer of security operations that led to mass killings. Ritz was accused of overseeing punitive actions against civilians. Retzlaf was linked to deportations and executions. Bulanov, once a citizen of the Soviet Union, was presented as a collaborator who had guided Gestapo units and identified victims. When the defendant were given the opportunity to speak, none denied that atrocities had occurred. Instead, they attempted to minimize their own roles, claiming they had merely followed orders or served in limited capacities. The court rejected these arguments. In the Soviet view, obedience did not absolve responsibility. The verdicts came swiftly. All 4 men were found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. The sentences were death. But the Soviet authorities went further. They announced that the executions would be carried out publicly, in the center of Kharkov itself. It was a symbolic decision meant to serve several purposes at once: justice for the victims, a warning to any remaining collaborators, and a message to future occupiers about the consequences of conquest and brutality. On the cold December morning, crowds gathered in the city's main square. And the temporary erected gallows served its purpose. This is the real footage. After execution, their bodies remained on display for a short time, swaying gently in the winter air before being taken down. Photographs were published almost immediately. Newsreel footage was distributed across the Soviet Union and sent abroad. For many outside Eastern Europe, this became the first widely seen image of Nazi officials and collaborators facing punishment while the war was still underway. The impact was profound. In Allied countries, the Kharkov trial reinforced growing awareness of German atrocities in occupied territories. It provided early visual proof that the conflict was not only being fought on battlefields, but in villages, prisons, and city streets. We read the comments and see your outrage about our footages being cut off before the executions. This is because YouTube policy restricts us from showing them. Please understand with us and subscribe if you haven't already.